A decade ago, professional wrestling was experiencing somewhat of a resurgence of alternatives to the WWE. For the first time since the territory days, fans around the globe were finding, following, and freaking out over superstars of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds. Thanks very much to the internet capabilities of streaming small promotions from every nook and cranny of the world, there were bigger and more enthusiastic crowds than we had seen in a very long time outside of WWE. Never a company not to capitalize on smaller feds finding success and buzz, the developmental wing of the WWE mansion was now known as NXT, after several names and heads of developmental that truly started with OVW and Jim Cornette's incredible long-term talents. But 10 years ago, it was a new day under the fatherly eye of Triple H, and complete with their own performance center training facility and TV show on their own WWE network. The new developmental served as WWE's very own indie alternative feeling endeavor known as NXT. But wrestling wasn't only changing in its consumption, style, and focus now heavily on smaller, faster, athletic work rate guys over the lumbering giants of the 80s and 90s, except your notable standouts like Shawn, Brett, and Kid. But the girls were changing as well. The divas were still a thing, but the bra and panties, puppies-heavy, runway models of the Attitude Era were seemingly starting to give way to female pro wrestlers who also cared more about work rate than they did their Playboy photo shoots. And again, 10 years ago we were incredibly lucky to bear witness to 4 women in particular. 4 women who themselves had varying backgrounds, looks, skills, and legacies. 4 women who were beginning to steal the show, tell their stories, and forever change this incredible business for every young girl with a dream of becoming a respected professional wrestler. Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky were breaking down walls and breaking through glass ceilings, as 10 years ago, these 4 horsewomen were poised and ready to take over. I'm Raja, he's John, and wrestling is her.
Wrestling is the 4 horsewomen.
Absolutely. I mean, it's difficult to argue.
No.
Having looked back in this time span that it's been since then, it's easy to forget at this point.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe. 10 years.
It is. I mean, it's been close to 9 years since the point when they were considered the horsewomen.
Right.
10 years since these girls got started, and it's just blows your mind thinking about where they are now.
Yeah, I mean,
where they came from.
And that's how you said it. I mean, it's 10 years since really they were all there together.
Exactly.
And starting this train a rolling.
Yes.
And it's rolled on through, man.
It's rolled to a place where we can do this show.
My God.
Completely about women's wrestling.
Because women's wrestling, arguably, you know, if you go to Japan, it was very serious. And it was
absolutely.
Very athletic based and violent and shoot style and wonderful and, you know, all this. And you go in even American wrestling, it was way more serious for so many years. It wasn't until the Attitude Era
when they screwed it all up.
Yeah, I would say maybe you could blame Glow a little bit.
Probably. But you could probably put a little of the blame on them.
But yeah, damn you, David McClain. but then the Attitude Era and the puppies and the mud matches and the evening gown.
The dark ages, as we like to call them.
I dare say we'll never have a video game come out again where you could pick, you know, Becky versus Bayley in an evening gown match.
I sincerely hope not.
Yeah. So
but before we start talking about women's revolutions and whatnot.
Yes.
Well, how about we talk about some of the stuff that has spawned from that?
There you go.
And what's going on right now as we speak.
What's going on right now
wrestling.
as we're speaking?
So we, of course, have quite a bit that has happened.
Yes.
Recently, we've seen Crown Jewel. We've had Halloween.
We have.
The Goddess of Stardom Tag League has come and gone.
Yes.
We've
and that god-awful Halloween show.
Yes, the god-awful Halloween show, which was a thing that happened.
And you'll never hear us because we're so positive, man. We are positive Pete and positive Penelope over here.
Yes.
We are very positive.
Absolutely.
But damn that Halloween show.
Oh, man.
That Halloween show took years off my family.
It was such a letdown. It was funny in
started
parts.
good.
Yeah. And there were good parts, but it was like the last couple matches it took all the wind out of the sails.
And we watch it live, folks. That's the thing, is we watch it live, and they're about 6 a.m.
Oh, we were just staring at it like,
yeah. Like,
where are we?
And didn't we have to go through a WWE pay-per-view before that or something that night? Anyway.
It was a long weekend.
Long weekend. One of those lost weekends.
So, what's going on right now with women's wrestling? We have seen a lot happen. Why don't we start with New Japan, which has had a couple of fantastic women's matches in the past couple of weeks, including Julia facing Hyan for the NJPW Strong Women's title in an excellent match.
It was an excellent match.
At Fighting Spirit Unleashed, and she retained in that match. And then we got to see Mayu Iwatani take on Stephanie Vaquer at Lone Star Shootout for the IWGP Women's Championship.
I like to say you're Stephanie.
Yes, I love Stephanie.
Because you were on that Stephanie train.
Oh, the moment we saw her. I mean, I think she caught a lot of attention in the New Japan Strong Women's title tournament the first time around.
Yes, she did.
But she just continues to impress, and I'll be surprised if we don't see her up here more often.
I think we're going to see her on Wednesday or Mondays or Fridays.
I mean,
just regular. How could we not?
She's in CMLL, so there's that New Japan connection, and now the AEW connection.
AEW connection.
So it's entirely possible they start bringing in some of those women from down there that like they have them in so far.
And I know we don't normally talk about what ifs. You know, we're not very big on candies and nuts, right?
No.
But
we got our fingers crossed.
I got to ask you.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to ask you?
No.
Julia.
Do we have to?
We have to address it. It's kind of our show.
Yes.
So the rumor has come out in the last couple of weeks that WWE has shown great interest in signing Julia.
They have, which I don't blame them for.
Right. So Julia's contract will be coming up.
Yes, around the beginning of next year, around March-ish.
Yeah, March-ish. It's a name.
Which is a certain season for the WWE going into April.
Yeah, it is. I would be even more concerned if it was January-ish.
Yes, I would be very concerned at that point.
You have to always worry about rumbles.
Yes.
They get excited, people get excited, and people ask. But really, like, if you were looking at the top female professional wrestler not currently signed to an AEW or a WWE.
Right. I mean, it's Julia.
It has to be Julia.
I mean, in our heads, it's like Mayu Iwatani, but for the world over, it's Julia.
Absolutely. In my head, it's Mayu Iwatani.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But with Julia, I will say some negatives to go into WWE.
Right.
All right. So the positives, to be positive, well, you're going to be a millionaire.
Right.
There's that.
Yes, you're going to be in front of millions of people every week.
You get WWE, you're going to get your flowers.
Yes.
Right? You're going to get your everything. You're going to get everything you want. You're going to have that stardom that you so desire. And Julia, we know, is not one to shy away from walking out of a training facility.
Right. She's not one to ask for her release and wait around for them to grant it or anything.
So Julia's going to go grab that brass ring.
Yes, she would, if it's there in front of her.
And, so that's something. Mm-hmm. But on the negative side of that, we have seen many, many men and women grab that brass ring or attempt to and crash and burn, especially from Japan.
Yes.
And their careers are never the same, Kenta.
Right. Yes.
And it's
difficult.
Yeah. And think about the long line of Japanese, professional wrestlers. I mean, I know Kairi right now is a big deal. Yes. But she did not leave that way.
No. When she left, she wanted to leave for a reason.
It was more, sometimes I don't know what to do with people. And here's the problem I have. Julia looks like, and I hate to do this, but I'm not trying to be any kind of racist kind of thing. Julia looks like she would speak English.
Yes, because she's half Italian.
Right. She just looks like
born in London.
Probably knows the language.
Yes.
She does not.
She does not speak a lick of English.
Is not good at all at speaking English.
And with translators and stuff these days, it's easier,
But if you can't cut a promo, okay, so you can't talk.
Right.
I think people may be under an illusion on her size.
Right.
She is not 6 foot tall, right?
No, she's not even like 5'6" or 5'7".
No. She's not like the median size, right?
Yeah.
And so when you get her up there, putting her in a ring against like a Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. I mean, would I like to see that match? Absolutely.
Absolutely. But when it's...
Maybe in an Elseworld show?
Right. When it's a dream match, that's one thing. Because a dream match, you theoretically you're going to be able to have the strengths of both. Mm-hmm. So it's like a Stardom setting and a WWE setting, right? So you get the... You know there's going to be give and take.
Yes.
But when you're the new one that no one knows, and that's the thing people don't realize, when they go to WWE, they think that, oh, hey, these fans will know me here because I was big in this town. They don't know jack crappity.
No.
And this has happened time and time again. People are like, oh, I don't know if I should do this here because, no, they don't know you. It's a different fan base.
Yeah.
And
that almost exclusively watches that product.
Yeah, I mean, really. And I know so many people that only know that.
Yes.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
And, because God knows you could watch it every day if you wanted to.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
But so you go there and you're having to make your star. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just keep having to try to get the star. So that to me is one of the cautionary negatives, right?
Yeah, and you think, like, she might think going in there, like, I'm a big deal, I'm a big star, they want me, but I don't know if she realizes she's going to be at the bottom of the totem pole when she gets there.
If you look at a Jade Cargill, you don't think that, but there's reasons. Like, they're signing away another AEW person there. And obviously they want to Cody Rhodes it, right? They want to make it look like, hey, come over here, look at all this. We've got nice tea and all this stuff. But Jade Cargill's also a once in a million years
oh my God,
athletic
absolutely
anomaly.
She's one of a kind.
She's not. It's very rare to have a lady her size, her physique, her athletic ability, and her beauty, and her charisma.
Like she has the whole package.
everything wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, superstar. Right.
Yes.
Cody's a legacy.
Like, even if you don't know them, you see them and you're like, oh, that's someone important.
And arguably, when Cody finishes his story, we'll see what happens.
Yes.
But that's the things I worry about. I don't want to be negative about it, but I'm going to be a little bit, like, greedy.
Yes.
I want Julia to make money. I do. I want her to be a star.
Me too.
But I want her to be in AEW. I want her to be in, not just be in AEW, but I'd rather her work there and work Impact, all these places that we're going to see her in varying styles.
Flex her muscles around the United States before completely committing to one fed like that you can't get out of.
So if she goes, we'll support her incredibly well.
Yes, we will.
But it's just
always.
It feels like we haven't had some of the matches that we want.
Oh, no. We still haven't had Julia versus Utami yet, okay?
We haven't had Julia versus Mercedes yet.
Yeah. Just slow down. All
right.
But since we talked about Julia possibly going to WWE, I feel it's as good as any time to bring up what's happening over on SmackDown right now, where they have Damage Control, where Kyrie has clearly joined against Bayley's wishes, along with Io Sky. And then at the end of the match on SmackDown, Asuka joined Damage Control kind of out of nowhere.
Right.
Like, they're just shoving all of these Japanese girls together, which is cool in a cool visual to have Asuka and Kyrie and Io Sky all together. But makes you think maybe they're trying to do something over there.
Yeah, you would think that. And while we're talking about people debuting, we need to give all our love and congratulations and a little round of the clap to one Miss Mariah May.
Yes, she looked so good in this new gimmick that she's doing is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
I love it already, where she's just a complete fangirl of Toni Storm.
It's amazing, and we haven't got to see anything except at the time of pressing the first interview, but it was done really well. And,
it was.
So I hope that they go full bore with this. It's a great spot to come in with a story.
And it makes total sense because they're from the same place. She did go to Stardom just like Tony. She's like kind of following in her footsteps.
Did amazing.
It's so great.
They got to mention Stardom in the first,
Yes.
what they were doing in Japan. And
they did.
So it's going to be fun to see that. I hope that she is following her around for a while.
Just doing everything for her.
Kind of annoyingly. And then...
Tony's going to love it, though, the adulation.
But think of this.
Yes.
If Tony wins, the title,
mm-hmm.
and then you have this underling.
Right.
It's very much the underling always has to Larry Zbyszko it. Like,
right.
So eventually that might mean a Mariah May run against Toni Storm.
And I am all for it.
Are you there?
Yes. I'm already there.
Okay. All right. So congratulations, Mariah. That's amazing.
Yes. We love you so much. Can't wait to see what you do. Over on the Raw side of things, Zoe Stark will be challenging Rhea Ripley for her title at Survivor Series coming up because she won a Battle Royal for the opportunity. Yes. So congratulations to her. They're still having this whole feud between these 5 women and nobody thinks anyone deserves a title.
Is it a congratulations or is it sorry about your damn luck?
Right. Good luck.
Yeah.
On the NXT side of things, they've announced the Iron Survivor Challenge is coming back for NXT Deadline on December 9th. There have been 2 qualifying matches so far, where Tiffany Stratton beat Fallon Henley to qualify.
Yes.
And Lash Legend, with a little help, beat Roxanne Perez to qualify. And of course, the Iron Survivor Challenge is the one where you get points when you pin or submit, and then people go in the penalty box for however 30 seconds when they get pinned or submitted. Good fun.
Fun stuff. Tiffany Stratton.
Yes. And continuing on the AEW side of things, we saw a sort of swerve in the storyline with Sky Blue and Julia Hart and Willow Nightingale. Willow has since healed from her misting injury. Sky Blue still has the running makeup, but when she came out to confront Julia upon Julia's return, she ended up misting Julia with blue mist instead of turning on Willow. So it seems like Sky is still a babyface, ?
Well, she's very much a babyface ?
She still doesn't vibe with Chris very well.
Yeah.
But she's on Willow's side because Willow's always been there for her. So
there's a lot of layers there.
There are.
And I'm not sure what any of those layers are right now.
No, because Julia's kind of I can see it in there. You're still fighting it. Why don't you just give in?
So Julia's uber popular.
Yes.
She is uber over, and she has done so amazing in her skills, and you've got to think of her age and her time in, and she's not had that many matches. Yeah. She's freaking good.
She's amazing. Every time we see her, I'm more and more impressed.
She's controlling matches. She's doing a damn good job, man. And I think Sky Blue's done a great job. I think she has improved so much, leaps and bounds.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they pushed her hard at first, and she's done really damn well. Obviously, all the girls keep getting better every outing, and so I'm very excited about if not what I see the next week, what I see in a year,
where this is going, where this will ultimately end up.
It does seem like we've got different groups out there. We've got different groups of people working with one another, and you've got the Sarayas as well, and the Rubies, and so I think it's really cool the how many we've got.
Yeah, because you've got these little hives of ladies around each of the titles, with their own thing going on, which I absolutely love.
It would almost be cool considering that wonderful video we got to see.
Yeah.
That high production video, if they had some sort of female show.
Oh, yes, that Doja Cat.
Yeah, too bad
Paint the Town Red.
Too bad we
video.
don't have a Friday show that would be cool to have.
An hour-long Friday show that, just happens.
To just be an all-women show. It'd be interesting.
Yes. So, Full Gear's coming up this weekend.
It is, yes.
And we know we're going to get a TBS title match where Kris Statlander will put her title on the line in a triple threat against Julia, who beat Willow Nightingale for her spot, and whoever wins between Sky Blue and the returning Red Velvet on Wednesday.
Yes.
So, yay. Triple threat match.
Yeah, so, and Red Velvet's not done so well since she's come back. But
she's working on it.
If you're doing the CM Punk story kind of thing of getting the rust out,
yes,
she might have a. I think she'll surprise us.
Yeah,
I think
she looks great.
I think Red Velvet's going to be. I think she's going to win that match.
You think?
I do.
You don't think they're going to do the Chris Julia Sky story where they see which way Sky turns?
No, I think that's going to make that story.
Huh. Well,
I think that Velvet being in that match will either that or during that match, Velvet's going to obviously win.
Right.
And
like a visual win sort of thing.
And we're going to see a little help.
Oh. From somebody?
From somebody.
Certain somebody?
That solidifies.
Oh, so it could go either way.
Yeah.
Also on Full Gear, we're going to have an AEW Women's World Title match between Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida, who is completely over Tony's dramatics at this point. She's like, you keep coming out in my matches. You keep distracting people from me, the champion. And you know what? You've never pinned or submitted me. I always win. So I don't know why you're
I've been reading
so
online.
Cocky.
A lot of people are like, oh my God, this would be like a minus 1,000, because Tony's going to win. It's like so obvious. I think.
No, it's not.
I think the story gets better if Tony doesn't win.
See, my impression is Shida wins and then Britt comes for her.
Yeah.
Like that's what I always assumed was going to happen.
I really think, as much as I would love to see this incarnation of Tony with the belt.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think this incarnation of Tony needs a belt.
No, and she has a new little fledgling to help her get through this loss.
Yeah.
Which is going to be funny.
Yeah, absolutely. But this would help the fact of like, oh, God,
Yes, it would. It'd be hilarious. And whether or not that ends up happening because Shida cheats, gets some help, maybe Britt does something during the match, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's clean. You never know.
Maybe Jamie Hayter comes back.
Maybe Jamie Hayter comes back. I can't even think about that.
I always have to do it to you.
I just can't. I can't even fathom it because I don't want to be disappointed, and I cling to hope every single time.
Well, Jamie Hayter's coming back.
So before we get into the Stardom stuff really quick, a few notes about indie things. Starting with Sukeban announcing their second show on December 6th in Miami, Florida, with their brand new signing, Sorry.
Yeah, which is
huge.
Huge surprise, considering there was already rumor bugs. I hate those damn rumor bugs.
I know.
Hold on a
second.
They're
everywhere.
Have you heard? Okay, I got it. But, that's a big one because people were saying, hey, she's going to be part of this new faction with Kairi and... Yeah,
which would have made sense, I guess, but maybe Sorry was not happy.
I think Asuka got that spot.
Yes,
I do.
She has now.
I think that's why it was out of the blue.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the second showing of Sukeban if they take some things into account.
Hopefully a little creative change.
Perhaps.
From the last one. But there was another good wrestling, all women's wrestling thing recently. So
Yes. And on November 16th coming up, Pro Wrestling Revolver is having a show called Unreal. And Unreal is right, honestly, because we have since learned that Ronda Rousey is going to be there. And not only be there, but be wrestling on the show.
Right.
Teaming with Marina Shafir of MMA Four Horsewomen fame against Athena and Billie Starkz.
Yes.
What?
I know. It's a lot.
I can't even comprehend that it's happening.
It's a lot. And as far as indies go, folks, this is a super card.
Yes.
Like, it is a super card. As far as the indies go, man, you can watch this live on Fight TV.
You can indeed.
So you need to get your Fight Plus and going on because it's well worth it. We watch stuff every week.
And Revolver's always so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's going to have the tag team match of Athena and Billie Starkz versus Marina Shafir and Ronda Rousey.
Whoop, whoop.
It's going to be a singles match with Matthew Palmer versus Paul Walter Hauser. Singles match with Gringo Loco versus Ray Horace. Singles match with Mike Bailey versus Brian Keith. And you're also going to have like Alan Angels. You're going to have the Jake something. You're going to have quite a few people, man. Like a little who's who. I'm sure we'll see John.
Yes, probably.
Little mocks on there. Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz. Swerve's going to be on there. So
all the names.
Yeah, Swerve Strickland, man, is going to be on it. Rocky Romero is going to be on it.
Yes.
So,
I love how you say Mike Bailey like that, like you're trying to out my love for Mike Bailey.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to out anything. Mike Bailey.
My combined love for Mike Bailey and Veda Scott.
Yeah. Well, there's a market for that.
Oh, God. Okay, so that show is happening.
Yes.
Which is, just that match alone is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait. Like, I can't wait to see Ronda Rousey on the Indies. Like, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean,
With Scary Marina.
My freaking emotions over the past couple of weeks have went through so much in wrestling. Even, I'm sure you're going to talk about our DDT, but
I was going to mention it briefly because we did watch the DDT show live on the 12th.
Yes.
And the one with Chris Jericho versus Konosuke Takeshita.
Yes.
Because you gotta see it, right?
Oh my God.
This 5-hour or plus behemoth of a show, like if you count the pre-show.
Oh my God.
We watched it live.
Yeah, we did.
And I mean, as far as the women go, we got to see some of the Tokyo Joshi Pro girls, but what stood out the most was the retirement of Saki Akai match.
Oh my God.
Which was not only one of the best like mixed tag matches you'll ever see,
Ever.
but it was just so emotional.
Yes.
From start to finish. We were crying.
I mean, we did. We cried. And it was just so amazing. And that mixed tag match, Jesus Lord.
It was so good.
And if that didn't get you, during this hour-long retirement ceremony,
right,
where just people came from everywhere, you know, this is your life.
Yes.
The very fact of some of her friends' faces, okay? It doesn't matter who is who. I'm just telling you, some of the faces.
Yes. Her partner's just sobbing.
Some of the emotions in the eyes that tell so much.
Oh, gosh.
We freaking lost it every time they lost it.
Yeah.
It was just because it was amazing, and it was a hell of a show.
It was so good. I mean, we got to see a Hiromu match, which was just a different kind of insane. Like, if you've ever wanted to see silly Hiromu, this is your chance.
Let me tell you, people that listen to this show, you'll love it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I'll say.
We saw a successful return from the depths of WWE for Mr. Ikemenjiro.
Yes.
Which was so fun.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and the main event with Chris Brooks and
oh my God.
Ueno was mind-blowing.
Dear God. What a match.
What the heck?
What a match.
The whole show was crazy.
Way to go, DDT. And it was really hard for us because we never miss live Stardom.
Yes, never.
If we have a chance for live Stardom, we'd never miss it. But here's the thing. There's almost one every week.
Oh, there is. There's a lot of live
There's
Stardom.
a lot. And we pay for them all, right?
Yes.
So we pay for them on the budget we get from this Blockbuster show, which we don't have a budget.
Yes.
Not yet. Not yet. Wait till this Patreon starts. See, we didn't even hit you with it right off the bat because we love you and we wanted you to love us first.
Yes.
So
our thinking was we hadn't seen the matches from the 10th and the 11th yet.
Yeah.
So we're just going to watch them in order up to the final.
Right. So we actually never look at spoilers, right?
No, not if we can help it.
So we almost never look at spoilers. We had to for this show.
We did.
Because we chose
DDT in this case.
We chose DDT because
and I'm not really sorry about that.
No, we had to see that retire. A retirement ceremony is not something you watch on tape normally and have the same emotion.
No, it was so, oh God.
Some things you're not going to go back and watch.
Yeah, no, and you tempted to fast forward through the 1 hour like ceremony.
Most of us living in the real world, that don't have any time.
Yeah.
Are going to fast forward a little bit when somebody's standing there for, but in the moment, as a whole show, DDT is like buying a Led Zeppelin album. You don't buy a Led Zeppelin album and just go listen to Kashmir.
Right.
You listen to the whole damn album.
You have to trust the process.
And that's what it is because it was a little eclectic, right? Just like a Zeppelin thing. It was, you're going to get a little rock and roll and then you're going to get a little Bronner stuff. I mean, you're going to get like all these different styles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it has everything from silly to serious.
Yes. And it's worth watching the entire 5 hours. I'm just going to tell you.
We've been fans for a long time, But this was one of those things where we already pay for it for Tokyo Joshi.
Yes.
Why not take the advantage and,
just give it a try. I mean,
just go.
Chris Jericho's going to be there. Why not?
There you go.
So, as we talked about, we don't always look at spoilers, but we had to look at who won the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. And because there have been numerous shows between our last show and this one in the Tag League, I thought we could just talk about some of our favorite things that we saw during Tag League
Can
this year.
we sing it? Like, these are a few of our favorite things?
I wish that we could, but I did not prepare for that, and I could not do it right now.
Okay, all right.
So I just wanted to bring up stuff like Mirai and Mai Sakurai just as a team.
Jesus Christ.
In every single one of their matches.
Oh, that was unexpected.
It was. I wasn't expecting the light up boots. I wasn't expecting Mai Sakurai's kicks.
So Mai Sakurai is and this is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's like being the, I don't know how to put this, like the least attractive woman in the Miss Universe. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
For us, everybody has their favorites, right? Mm-hmm. And Raja and I pretty much align, and it's not picked that way. Like, it would be perfectly fine if she was a bigger this fan or this.
Yes, we have a similar taste in wrestlers.
Right, and wrestling.
Yes.
And so this Sakurai just hadn't really done much for us.
No.
Historically.
Right.
Until this damn tag tournament.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening. Everybody's hurt tag tournament that every other podcast out there wants to be like, oh, the sky's falling.
Right.
Do you see the sky falling? Hold on a second. I know what it is because I'm a better booker. Absolutely. Here on my podcast. So we are going to change gears right now and we're going to book. You know what? I don't think they should hit each other so hard. It's a combat sport. I know that. I know it's a combat sport.
But they're ladies.
But they got hurt. They're just little fragile women. And those little fragile girls got hurt. Oh my goodnesses. And it's what are we gonna do? Shut up. Shut up.
It's professional wrestling.
Here's the deal. I hate that they're hurt just as bad as everybody else.
Right.
Okay? But when I stepped into a pro wrestling ring, I knew it wasn't gonna be a pleasurable experience.
Right.
I was doing it because of my love for professional wrestling.
Absolutely.
That's why I did it, because I wanted to lock up. I wanted to feel it. When I got out there for a match, I said, let me feel it. All right. So here's the deal, right? Especially if you're in Japan. All right. These girls, women, ladies, they freaking knew what was going to happen when they stepped into a pro wrestling ring. And especially when you step into a Stardom ring, you better be ready for combat. You better be ready to bring it, because the whole federation itself has been built on fucking work rate.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about, is the best work rate in the world. And that's why people tune into it, because if you can't be bigger, you better be fucking different.
Right.
And they're different.
Amazing.
And so everybody out there who wants to be on some forum somewhere and go, oh, I don't know, I think that maybe they're working too much. Are they really? Did they work too much when Ric Flair was working the 300 days everybody wants to fucking talk about all the time? Like, oh, hey, those guys really were wrestlers. They used to work 250 days, 300 days. They used to work 500 days a year. You know, they worked 10 times on Sunday. It's like, you want to talk about this in these wonderful levels, right? So you have some ladies that are actually doing that shit. Mm-hmm. You got some ladies who are actually doing it. Just like back in the days of All Japan, we don't care how much we're going to work them. Let's work the piss out of them because they're popular, right?
Right.
They're not doing that to them. They're having 3 shows a week.
Yes.
2 shows a week. And yeah, they have a style that is stiff.
Yes.
It's stiff. That's just what it is. But you know what it is? It's the men's style traditionally. It's the same thing.
Yes.
You're seeing the same. They're not having to work the diva style.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not having to. Now, you girls can't punch. You girls are going to have to slap. It's not like that. When you see a slap in Stardom, there's a nose that winds up in the 3rd row.
Even the hair pulling is vicious.
Even on their house shows are already different. They're different than when you see it. Now, some of them go as pretty hard, but they're not going like it's the pay-per-view. When it's the pay-per-view, when it's the Goddess of Stardom champion, whatever, you're going to see a different level.
Yeah.
It just is. So sometimes people get hurt, and guess what? Sometimes people get hurt at the same time.
Yes.
It happened in AEW. And everybody, it was chicken, my God, it's falling, the sky's falling. And then guess what? They healed. They did.
Amazing.
They healed. And then it happened in NXT this past year.
Yeah.
A bunch of girls got knee injuries at the same time. Oh my God. I think one of those trainers, I bet he does the dragon screw, the illegal version that came from the depths of the pit fighter in Japan. And they purposely tearing out their ligaments. And we need to change the style. What do you change that style to? Like tap dancing? Go
back to the mud matches.
They all got hurt. So do you put evening gowns on them? Is that what you do? No, it just happened to happen.
Yes.
And that just happens sometimes. So that's all that's happening right now. And guess what? Everybody will be back. But they have a big roster. And going into this tag tournament, if you would listen to anybody, it's like, well, that team don't make sense. Well, that don't make sense either. You know what? Maybe it will if you give it a chance.
Right. Maybe they'll do something with it and surprise you.
In the world we live in, everybody's opinion. Somebody has an opinion, then the 29 people that can't think for themselves all just go, well, no, I don't want to follow that opinion. Harump. I agree with Shorty W2277Y.
Yes.
And they get on this whole thing, and then one of the stupid ass sites pick it up.
Yeah.
And it's just like a bunch of girls are hurt at the same time. Film at 11, and it's just ridiculous. And then it becomes a narrative.
Yeah.
And then it gets back to these people. It just does.
Yeah.
So,
and they feel badly about it.
My fear is that they're like, oh, hey, we need to, there was only 429 people at this show instead of 430 that we had last year. I'm really worried about this. This is what are we going to do? This is pretty freaky. You know what? Maybe we need to go down to one show a month, and maybe
stop doing tournaments.
Maybe we go to touch. Maybe like they have touch football, or we'll have flag wrestling. Yeah, flag wrestling. We've already got teams. We'll have the captain of the team, and they'll have to get the flag off the other girls. You don't think that's too dangerous, do you? Is the flag heavy? Okay. I mean, it's silly.
It is.
It is stardom.
Yes. So these things are bound to happen.
And it's going to happen. And you know what? It hasn't happened that much.
No. And when all these girls all come back, the roster is going to be ridiculously strong again. And everyone's going to forget that this have even happened.
But what has happened while they're gone is people have stepped up.
Oh, in a big way.
So we've seen the Mai Sakuras. We've seen the Idas. We've seen these wonderful women. We've seen the Hanins get to take their flowers, get to take their opportunities.
Yeah.
To do things that we didn't, what would have happened had nobody got hurt?
Yeah, you never know what kind of tournament we would have had.
Would we be seeing May and Suzu?
Right.
Or would they still be wrestling in like the second match?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Mai Sakurai and Mirai are just such a good example of what you can do when you switch things up a little, like even if it's because you have to.
Right.
But if you were going to go back and watch like one early match from this tournament, them versus FWC is just an insane match.
It is.
It makes you want more out of those four, like in different combinations.
Absolutely. And that was just a house show.
It was, yeah. And they always deliver. And if you asked us, like going into this tournament, if we were 100% happy with it, we'd probably be like, not really. There's more things we would have liked to see. But we didn't lambast it before we saw anything. We gave it all a chance. We watched it.
Yeah, we did.
And we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, every time.
Another thing I was going to bring up was the incredible run Hanin's been on.
Yes.
Winning matches.
Yeah.
When Mayu Iwatani is her tag team partner.
Oh my God.
Over big teams.
Yeah.
It has been so fun to watch her shine like this because you can see it just beaming out of her.
She's got that charisma, and so much has changed for her since Mariah May.
Yes, it has.
Mariah May brought something out of Hanin.
Yeah, she gave her a confidence.
Yeah.
That we love to see.
And, I think that the Dynamite Sexy
Dynamite Princess.
Yeah, she brought a lot out of her too.
Yes, Sexy Dynamite Princess was a big influence, I think.
Yeah, me too. But no, it's been awesome, and that's another one with the dreaded injury, that one that would have happened no matter if she was a librarian or a wrestler.
Right, yeah.
So she had the appendicitis.
Yes, and of course she was down for the count for like a few days, but she's coming back for the pay-per-view this weekend. Yeah. So things happen.
They do.
But this tournament, even though we haven't yet seen the final yet as of recording, we know that the final ended up being Mei Seira and Suzu Suzuki versus Micah and Megan Bayne. Yet another tournament title that pitted Suzu and Micah against each other in what is bound to be like an epic story for the ages, with these two going against each other, ending up in probably a new faction, if not complete like turmoil where DDM is concerned. I have no idea where it's going.
So do you think we are going to get a new faction?
I feel like we need one.
Yeah.
That Micah heads, maybe, like Micah and Megan need to be together permanently. I love Divine Kingdom as a team. They just make sense. And even if they had their faction called Divine Kingdom, I'd be completely fine with that.
Megan will be probably going back to...
She probably will eventually, yes. But I love them so much together.
No,
and
I agree.
of course, I love May and Megan and all of them together.
Me too. The dynamic they have and the chemistry they have.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I don't see a world where Micah and Suzu can exist within a faction together.
No.
Because they're so at each other's throats so much. But Divine Kingdom actually ended up coming out of the tag tournament with the win.
Yeah.
So they get a future Goddess of Stardom tag team champion shot.
So, and it's, again, that's some stuff that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Not in the way it did.
Like FWC was looking to be up there. And that I would have thought Mayu and Hanan would have been in the final at least.
How did that not happen?
It's insane. I don't know. It's we'll have
crazy.
To see.
With all the wins they had.
Yeah.
It was nuts because they were running the table.
Yeah. It just goes to show that even if things are not what you wanted on paper, there's a good chance you're probably still going to enjoy it.
Just have patience.
Yeah.
Shows come and go.
They do.
And, opportunities don't. Opportunities, you have to grab it by the horns when it's there, and there is nobody that's on that roster that is incapable of grabbing an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. They all want it.
Even Kevin,
even Miyu Hamasaki, yes.
Yeah, so when we say that with love, but so I'm excited about every show that we see, and I just want some of that stupidity for people that don't even watch the product.
Yeah. It's really, mostly, it's infuriating. You got to try to block it out as much as possible.
Well, I'm good now. My rant's all gone. I'm completely on rant zero.
Speaking of exciting, though, this weekend we have some fun stuff coming up for Stardom, starting with New Blood West 1, where they're outside of the greater Tokyo area for the first time, where we'll see a rookie debut match versus Momo Watanabe. They haven't released the rookie's name yet. Shit will be announced before the show. Ami Sori versus Zones or Zones. We saw her on the Sumeri show. Suzu Suzuki versus Yuna Mizumori. Mei Seira versus Hanan.
Oh my God, what a match.
Mai Sakurai versus Saya Ida. Miyu Amasaki versus Chi-Chi.
Yes.
Momoka Hanazono versus Lady C. And for the Future Stardom Championship, Rina versus Hanako.
That's
a whole bunch of singles matches.
Yeah, the Rina Hanako, that one's interesting.
It is. Is Hanako ready to be the future of Stardom?
Rina's gonna, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. That's all I can say.
I agree completely.
I don't know what to expect.
Me either. All these matches sound fire, though.
They do. They sound great. It's gonna be great fun because it's so much new stuff.
It is, yeah. Complete stuff we've never even seen before.
Yes.
And of course, that's leading into Stardom Gold Rush 2023 on the 18th, where we will have a battle royal with all your fun favorites like Micah, Mina, Megan, Kevin, Lady C, Yuna, Hanako, and Fukigen Death, all in that pre-show match.
It's my pick.
Yes. We'll have a first round Moneyball tournament match where Hazuki, Hanan, and Saya Ida take on Ami Sori, Saki Kashima, and Konami. A little God's Eye action there.
Saki Kashima.
Yes. The other first round match will be Julia, Mai, and Tekla, the Bari Bari Bombers, versus Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, and Ruaka.
Yes.
And those two will meet in the final later in the night to see who wins the money ball and the prize money. We'll see Suzu Suzuki taking on Azumi and the returning Starlight Kid.
Jesus Christ, what a match.
Yeah, that's just a crazy match.
Oh.
UWF rules match where Shiri will be taking on the Scandinavian Hurricane Alice Inc.
Who's actually a legit badass.
Yes, that's going to be scary.
Yeah, it's going to be hell of an encounter.
I'll just hold my breath the whole time. The high-speed title will be on the line where Mei Seira takes on Momoka Hanazono in a sort of anniversary match for both of their debuts.
Yeah, very cool match.
And the Wonder of Stardom title match, Mirai versus Saori Ano.
Which I can't wait for. They've done such a wonderful job of building this match. Some of the extracurriculars that have happened in tag matches and whatnot.
Oh, man. God.
Some of the promos cut on one another and, just...
They're both vicious in, like, the nicest way.
But it's going to be... My God, I think that match could be technical masterpiece.
Yeah, I would be surprised. And of course, that's the main event because Tam Nakano is still out, and that's why Suzu Suzuki is in a epic three-way instead of having her title shot on that night.
And I am actually more excited about the card because of that now.
Yes, and Suzu has made calls for Tam Nakano to drop the belt, but we've yet to see what will come of that.
It's a Japanese tradition.
It is.
If you don't make the card, you have to drop the belt. I mean, it's happened for years.
If you're announced.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't able to fulfill your obligation of champion.
Yes.
And that's the big belt.
It is. It's the main title. I mean, and it's not going to be on Stardom Gold Rush, which is a big deal.
Yeah. And I've seen Scotty Wrestling put a post. And if you ever want to know anything about Stardom, give him a follow.
Absolutely.
Not only does he have a really cool last name, he knows his stuff, man.
He's the authority here.
He knows his Joshi. But, he had a call for like a reset, and using the end of the year for a reset. I don't agree. I think it's fun having resets sometimes.
Right.
But with all maybe the palate cleanse would be the way we would term it.
Right. Yeah.
Just let's change some things up. Let's do some things, but they do that pretty well on their own.
They do. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting time.
It'll be interesting to see where we are from now compared to the year-end climax and like what is going on at that point when it's supposed to be crazy.
We got the year-end climax, then we have the 1-4 show.
Oh, the 1-4 show's just mind-blowing.
Just so much excitement coming up, and everybody should be back by then.
Oh, yeah. I would think so.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to see, a legit boss too soon. So.
Oh, man. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see.
So that brings us to our main event, our feature on the takeover of the 4 Horsewomen.
Yes.
I am so excited to talk about this because
you are.
As a fairly recent wrestling fan, not that recent, but fairly recent, I wasn't able to experience this time period live.
Right.
So going back and deep diving into it was such an experience for me, and it was so much fun.
Right.
So I'm just excited to put it out there for anyone else that was not watching or not around or not old enough at that time to experience it.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's unbelievable. Again, like we're talking about, it's just how it changed the game. People say that and they throw that term around,
Yeah.
But this really did. This really changed wrestling.
It did. Absolutely. And it's easy looking back from where we are now, knowing these 4 girls and saying, well, duh, they were big.
Yeah.
Like, looking at them now, like, their accomplishments, okay? Sasha Banks, 5-time Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, 3-time Tag Team Champion, IWGP Women's Champion, PWI Match of the Year, Woman of the Year, Feud of the Year, Tag Team of the Year. Charlotte Flair, 6-time Raw Women's Champion, 7-time SmackDown Women's Champion, 2-time NXT Women's Champion, WWE Divas Champion, the final one, 1-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, 2020 Women's Royal Rumble winner, PWI Feud of the Year, Woman of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. Becky Lynch, 2-time Raw Women's Champion, 4-time SmackDown Women's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, Women's Tag Team Champion, 2019 Royal Rumble winner, PWI Woman of the Year, and Most Popular Wrestler. Bayley, 1-time Raw Women's Champion, 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion, NXT Women's Champion, 2-time Women's Tag Team Champion, 2019 Women's Money in the Bank winner, PWI Feud of the Year, Match of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. The accomplishments of these 4 women in wrestling over their careers have been astounding. So looking back, it's like, well, of course they were huge, but at that time period, no one would have guessed that this was what was going to happen.
And I mean, people are going to say, well, what about, Susie McSue? Susie McSue had a great run and did wonderful things in pro wrestling. We're not debating that.
No.
What we are saying is that on the grandest stage of them all, and regardless of how you feel about New York, regardless of how you feel about that company, okay, that has to go out the window sometimes, and you have to take sniffs of reality. There is nothing bigger than World Wrestling Entertainment.
No.
In pro wrestling, it is the pinnacle of the sport.
It is.
And if you want to be there, you have to work in their rules.
Yeah.
You go into that machine, and it was much like, sorry for the sports reference, but the Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, very much you could put some janitor from the upper decks in at quarterback and or running back, and they would be able to do it with the system because it's the system. And people rarely change that mold.
Yeah.
The ones that have and the ones that did are legends.
Absolutely.
Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart. I mean, you talk about changing molds from the giant lumbering, giants to Shawn, to these people that have really changed the game.
Right.
The thing that these ladies have done, as we will discuss, think about the fact, if you could go back and for the wrestlers for my demographic that tunes in for me, think about, when we were kids, can you imagine a women's wrestling pay-per-view that wasn't, sold on the 90s they were going to be wearing? I'm not talking about PAL. I'm
Women main eventing a wrestling show.
Imagine PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Wrestler of the Year or Feud of the Year.
Most popular wrestler.
Being a female, it's unheard of. And even if you watch some of the documentaries of these ladies, even when they were training, having to sneak, and go from, girls, you have to work like divas. That's you got to work like divas, which included not throwing punches.
Right. Shout out to Sarah Del Rey.
Yeah, thank God for Sarah Del Rey. Because letting them do it, letting them, work like workers.
Yeah.
And that's how it is now.
Yes.
And many shows are headlined by the females.
Yeah, as it very well should be.
If you don't have enough girl matches on there, people go nuts.
Yeah, we want to see it.
They had their own pay-per-view. I mean, there's been so many leaps and bounds.
And before they got all these accolades, before they became the absolute legends that they already are, even at their young ages right now, like they still have so much more that they can give and so much more they can do. Before they got to this point, they were all just normal girls growing up.
Right.
And we're going to start with how each of these girls got into wrestling.
Yeah.
Just really quick, starting with Sasha Banks. She grew up as a wrestling fan, watching mostly WWE, but she found most of her women's wrestling inspiration from All Japan, from tapes that she would be able to get a hold of, that her family would help her get a hold of. So she was seeing these larger-than-life women as opposed to what was going on in WWE at the time, which wasn't very inspirational for young girls back then.
She was seeing the good stuff.
Of course, she is the niece of Snoop Dogg, or the cousin of Snoop Dogg. She's related to Snoop Dogg, and he would regularly take her to WWE shows. He actually took her to the Eddie Guerrero tribute show, and as we know, Sasha Banks is a huge Eddie Guerrero fan. He was like her superhero, her idol,
right.
someone like the person that she wanted to be
right.
when she got into wrestling. And I actually saw her when talking about this. She didn't even know that Eddie had died when they went to this show. So that was a big hit for her, being at that show for Eddie, like learning this news. It was very emotional for her, but that just instilled in her more of this, like wanting to be that person and wanting to uphold that legacy that he left behind.
Absolutely.
So after leaving school, she began her wrestling career in 2010 at Chaotic Wrestling in Massachusetts, where she became the Chaotic Wrestling Women's Champion in December 2nd, 2012. She would hold that title for 259 days before ultimately vacating it because she signed a WWE developmental contract.
Right.
So she debuted as Sasha Banks on NXT TV on December 12th, 2012 in a losing effort to Paige, who is one of the, like the OGs. Like,
right.
Women's Revolution, Paige here.
Oh, yeah. Paige here.
That brings us to Bayley, who also grew up as a huge wrestling fan. She loved Bret Hart, Trish Stratus, Rey Mysterio, Lita. She was all about like that era, those larger than life personalities that just loved wrestling as much as she did.
She very much is like Marsha Mark.
Yes.
I mean,
she's so happy about wrestling. Like she wanted to do nothing else in her entire life.
And I love her. I mean, it's one of the ones you see the pictures of. She reminds me of the female Mick Foley, because you always see those video clips of Foley at the Garden and, see him jumping off his house as a kid. That's him and that's the Bayley, it just reminds me of that, because she's always like the cutest thing in the world with those pictures.
She is. Like seeing her with John Cena and stuff like that. She's so cute.
Fantastic.
So after getting out of school, she began training at Big Time Wrestling under Jason Styles, and her first match was in September of 2008 under the name Davina Rose.
Oh yeah, Davina Rose.
In October 2010, she met Serena Deeb, who kind of became a sort of mentor to her and led her into Shimmer, which was one of the largest women's wrestling promotions at the time. She was signed to her developmental contract through that path in December 2012 and debuted as Bayley on March 20th, 2013, also in a losing effort to Paige.
Yeah.
Paige just taking out the newcomers.
Damn that
left and right.
She's the Tito Santana of NXT.
She was. Charlotte Flair had a little bit of a different upbringing, as we're all aware. She grew up in a wrestling family as the daughter of Ric Flair.
You don't say.
It's crazy, right?
Oh my God.
Who would have guessed?
Why didn't we lead with that?
And Charlotte had no intention of being a professional wrestler.
Oh no, not
ever.
at all.
She played volleyball in school. She wanted to be a personal trainer. But as she grew up, she made several cameos on wrestling, including being ringside for the December 6, 2004 episode of Raw in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Lita and Trish Stratus competed in the main event for the WWE Women's Championship.
I remember that.
And you have to imagine that had a huge effect on her sitting there watching this amazing women's match. She eventually signed her WWE developmental contract in May of 2012, and she wrestled primarily on house shows for the first bit of her career to get acclimated to the system, because she didn't go out on the indies. She'd never wrestled before, probably except for in her living room and with her brothers.
The expectations on her were astronomical.
Oh yeah, like she's a Flair.
Yeah, she's a daughter of the king.
Yes, but she made her NXT debut as Charlotte on July 13th, 2013, where she defeated Bayley.
There you go.
She won her debut because she's Charlotte.
She's Charlotte Flair.
And she took her name, of course, from her birth city.
Right.
And then Becky Lynch.
The Queen City.
The last of them to join the ranks, Miss Becky Lynch began wrestling in 2002 at 15 under the ring name Rebecca Knox alongside her brother, so it was a family affair. They loved wrestling together. She wrestled on the indies from promotions like Elite Canadian Championship Wrestling, where she became the first Supergirls champion in 2005. But then in September of 2006, she actually suffered a head injury in a match in Germany, which gave her painful headaches, loud buzzing in one of her ears, and poor vision.
Yeah.
So she retired from in-ring competition for 6 years.
Wow.
Which is insane to think she sat out so long. But she felt like she would eventually return.
Right.
And she did. After 6 years, she signed her WWE developmental contract and became Becky Lynch in 2013. She wrestled on a handful of live house shows between November and May of 2014 before making her TV debut on June 26, 2014 as an Irish river dancer.
Oh, yeah. That's some of my favorite video to watch just because of how angry it makes her.
She did defeat Summer Rae in her debut, though. So 2 for the win on the debut. How
could you actually beat that when you saw it on stage?
Right. You'd just be so stunned that you'd just lay down.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Absolutely.
So in their NXT beginnings, the 4 horsewomen from the get-go talk about how natural they all were together.
Right.
Charlotte and Sasha first met and they just had chemistry from the beginning. And Sasha and Bayley talk about how Bayley had a tryout match with in the Performance Center, and they asked Sasha to put on that match with her. And from the moment they got in there, it's like they didn't even really have to talk about it. They just gelled.
Yeah.
It was magic the moment they got in the ring together.
I think they called most of it in the ring.
Yes, they didn't know anything going in.
Right.
But everyone was like, that was amazing. Like, do that. And of course, they became fast friends.
And sometimes you just have it, man. Sometimes you just have it with somebody.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's like any relationship. Sometimes, especially more in the territory it is, but when you're strapped in a program with somebody, you were married to them.
Yes.
And, you guys, you either have it or you don't, man. It's one of those things you can't force chemistry.
And it's amazing to think of just how opposites attract with these two, where they went with their careers and the characters they became is just so cool. But Sasha Banks being the first one sort of in the system, she very early started rising up the ranks under the tutelage of Summer Rae, who was she convinced Sasha to dig deep and find what would bring her out on top. And this culminated in her finally becoming the boss in September of 2013 after beating Bayley.
Wow, it's amazing that we just recently passed that 10-year mark.
Yeah.
Of the boss.
It is. Like, the boss has been the boss for 10 years.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But that team of Summer Rae and Sasha, they were feuding very heavily with Charlotte and Bayley, who decided to team up and take them on. And this whole time while they're feuding, Sasha and Summer were very adamant about turning Bayley over to their side. They were like, I don't know, I guess they thought that they could make her into something other than the super happy hugger.
Everybody wants to corrupt.
I know.
Until she got corrupted, it seemed like that poor girl, leave her alone. It was like we loved that hugger so much.
We do. Just leave her, just let her be.
Yeah.
So everyone was like, it's like they have their sights set on Bayley. That's what they want. And then on November 13th, 2013, in a tag match, Charlotte turned on Bayley, smacking her in the face instead of giving her a tag, and joined Sasha and Summer Rae in the BFFs, the beautiful fierce females.
Easy for you to say.
It's hard to say. So Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks regularly teamed up over the course of 2014, with their main opposition being Bayley, who was understandably upset that Charlotte had turned on her to join Sasha after Sasha had been like on their tails this whole time. Like, why would you want to do that? Bayley believed that it was Sasha's fault for turning Charlotte on her. Right. She was very mad about that, but she needed help. And she quickly found that help in the new addition to the roster, Becky Lynch. So now we have Charlotte and Sasha on one side, Becky and Bayley on the other side. Becky and Bayley
sounds right.
It does. So during this time, a tournament for the vacant NXT Women's Championship was held because Paige had vacated it.
Paige wasn't here.
She was not here anymore. So in the course of that tournament, Charlotte ended up coming out on top at NXT Takeover 2014 on May 29th. And while she was holding this belt, there was a lot of tension between Charlotte and Sasha, especially because Summer Rae, who had been out, returned and wanted the championship.
Right.
So Summer's like whispering in Sasha's ear.
Oh, yeah.
She's like sowing these seeds of jealousy between Sasha and Charlotte. And it got to a boiling point on July 3rd, 2014, when Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks faced Bayley and Becky. They won, but after the match, Bayley attacked Sasha and Charlotte left her there to get beat down. And then backstage later that night, they basically said, I don't think we should team up anymore. And Sasha was like, you're not going to be champion for very long because people are coming for that belt. So that was the end of the Sasha-Charlotte union. So Bayley and Sasha Banks were continuing to battle over the number one contendership. And in a match on August 14th, Bayley beat Sasha for the number one contendership to the NXT Women's title. Sasha...
Big shocker on that one.
Being Sasha, called it a fluke.
Right.
She was like, you can't actually beat me. This was an accident. Put your contendership on the line. Face me again, and we'll see who's actually the number one contender. So on August 28th, 2 weeks later, they wrestled again, and Bayley won.
Right.
So, not really a fluke.
It's the way it has to happen.
Oh, gosh. It's so funny. I love, like, knocking Sasha down a peg in that sense.
Well, that's the fun part with that character.
Yeah.
Is when that character gets knocked down a peg.
Yes.
Plus, not only, and it's fun to watch Bayley win, and, so yeah, I get it on every aspect. They had it just down pat.
Yes, so Charlotte, after retaining over Summer Rae, who did not steal her championship from her, went on to face Bayley at NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way on September 11th, 2014, where she also retained, but during their rematch on October 2nd, Charlotte beat Bayley and then got up and raised Bayley's hand and hugged her and like sort of put an end to that heel era of Charlotte Flair teaming with the BFFs, and the one that turned on Bayley. Bayley was still a little tenuous about it, you know.
Of course.
But she had fought Charlotte.
She knows what Charlotte's all about.
she had fought Charlotte in these two matches at TakeOver and on NXT, and there was a burgeoning respect there again.
Right.
So Bayley's not the champion. Charlotte's still the champion. And now Becky Lynch is coming for that title. So her and Charlotte were thrown into a singles program very late in 2014, where Charlotte defeated Becky Lynch 3 matches in a row. Very quickly, back to back. After the third match on October 16th, just a couple of weeks after Charlotte beat Bayley, Becky turned heel, beating up Charlotte after the match, and joined Sasha Banks to form Team Bay. Best at everything.
Of course.
Yes, so this prompted Bayley and Charlotte to reform their tag team very haphazardly to go against the new team of Sasha and Becky.
Right.
So Sasha's just left and right, just
Yeah.
bringing people over to her side, like all in an attempt, I feel, to defeat Bayley. The force that is Bayley.
Yeah. And Bayley was a force at the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, with the fans, it was just, Bayley was it.
Yes, and it's like these two incredible forces, the dark side and the light side, with just people revolving around them, like trying to fit into their story.
Right.
Which is so cool, like looking back at it, how it all plays out. So during this time, Sasha Banks is relentlessly pursuing Charlotte and her NXT Women's title. She is absolutely like crazy about this title. She needs it. And at an attempt at NXT TakeOver Our Evolution on December 11th, 2014, she lost. But she didn't take that as a final answer, because they then had 2 rematches on December 25th NXT and then on January 21st, 2015. And in that last rematch, Charlotte ended up losing by disqualification in a matter of 3 minutes because Becky Lynch got involved, attacked Charlotte, and caused Sasha to lose that match.
Right.
And of course, Sasha was not very happy about this with her teammate doing that. So they completely just went after each other. And during that
all bets were off at this point.
During that whole kerfuffle, Bayley comes out. She picks up Charlotte's title belt because it's laying on the ring. She does the look. She looks at it.
Yeah, you never look at another person's belt.
So Charlotte grabs it, tugs it away from her, which prompts Bayley to give Charlotte a Bayley to belly after all this teaming they'd been doing against Sasha and Becky, and now they're all four at each other's throats.
It's the belt's fault.
And in that moment, Mr. William Regal comes out to the stage, and he says, all right, I'm tired of this. At NXT Takeover Rival, you four are going to have a fatal four-way to decide the NXT Women's Champion.
Right.
So this set the stage for what we would know to be the point of becoming the Four Horsewomen.
Right.
Like, officially.
The Genesis.
Yes. So the next week after this announcement, Bayley and Charlotte took on Becky and Sasha in a tag match that ended in a no contest because they just could not stop fighting each other. All four of them were just at each other's throats completely. And then the next week on February 4th, 2015, Sasha officially turned on Becky after Becky lost a match to Bayley.
Right.
Ending Team Bay, like, officially.
Right.
Now we're at NXT Takeover Rival, February 11th. 2015. Just a week after Becky and Sasha break up, everyone dislikes each other at this point.
Of course.
And I really enjoyed reading the girls talk about this match in particular.
Yeah.
And how it was the sort of like point that people started referring to them as the Four Horsewomen, and when they really knew that they were doing something big, when they knew that things were changing. And one of them said it was when we had that fatal four-way at NXT TakeOver Rival in February 2015 when I knew as a group we had a chance to be something special and make history. So in this mere 12-minute match, which is beautiful, you like from the bell, you see this passion and aggression and just non-stop trying to prove why the women are the main event, the main attraction.
Yeah, and even like when you watch some of those, going back to, that time period, it's interesting to me when they talk about, again, the style.
Yeah.
And how if somebody, like, they didn't want people to know their match.
Yeah. They were like, we can't practice anything.
Because there'd be a whisper of, they're doing a dive tonight. We're doing a dive tonight. And they would tell
them not to do that dive.
They tell them, girls, you can't do that dive. They're doing it.
Yeah.
And that was just how it was for the women, like forever.
Yeah, so they would keep everything close to the chest so that they could go out there and perform the way they wanted to perform, and nobody could tell them beforehand. Like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask permission,
and
kind of thing.
And you would never imagine that today.
No, like, going back for me, it was so weird because in my head, of course, this is like women's revolution. Right. But watching this match and hearing Corey Graves refer to these women as divas on commentary, it kind of just shakes you a little. You're like, oh, they're not divas. Don't call them that.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
And I loved it during this match. It just shows how beloved these girls were, because right there in the front row center was a sign that said, "Don't make me choose. It's too much." Because they didn't know who wanted to win. But Sasha Banks ended up ending Charlotte's 258-day reign as NXT Women's Champion to become the champion, and not in one of those fatal four-way finishes. She pinned Charlotte.
Yeah.
She pinned the champion.
She slipped over.
It was after a bank statement.
It was still a slip over though.
It was a win. It was a clean win.
It was a clean win.
And Charlotte and Sasha actually shared a hug after, sort of like, it was like they went for a handshake and then Charlotte pulled her into a hug and Sasha shoved her away. It was like the friendship breaking through just a little bit.
Right.
But Sasha was like, nope. I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool moment. And this moment, of course, is like when they had the picture like of them all throwing the four. It's like the moment that the Four Horsewomen was born.
Wow.
And the match is just spectacular, even to go back and watch. Like, you can tell all four of these women were just trying their best to show exactly what they were made of. And they succeeded, clearly.
That match stands up, like, right now. It's nice. It's good.
It is, yeah. And following this, there was even more craziness. Becky was thrown first into the title picture, winning a #1 contenders match over Charlotte and Bayley in April 2015, just a couple months later. But the way she won this match was so funny because Charlotte had Bayley in the figure 8, and Becky, who was outside of the ring at the time, hurt, slowly crawls in the ring and puts her arm over Bayley for the 3 count. And of course, Charlotte's like, what?
Yeah.
I had that one. It's just so great. So Becky Lynch would go on to face Sasha Banks at the next NXT Takeover Unstoppable on May 20th. And leading up to this match, these 4 actually sat down with WWE.com for an interview. Like, reading them talk about it when they're already on the main roster is one thing, but reading this when it's like happening, actively happening to them, was so fun. So they were all just continuously gushing about how there were 2 women's matches on Takeover. Like, that was like the biggest deal to them, that this Takeover was going to have 2 women's matches, if that gives you any idea. It's
amazing.
Of what the time period
And the Takeovers
like.
only had 4 or 5 matches.
Yeah, it was, they were still in the performance, like it was still Full Sail. It was very low key. So Charlotte said, the more they give us, the more we deliver, and the sky's the limit for this group of women. They all very much believed in what they were doing at this point. Becky even talked about when she got signed, she told a friend she wanted to main event WrestleMania one day, and he told her, it's good to have dreams, but be realistic. Like, that was the mindset back then.
Oh, yeah, it was unheard of.
She still wanted it to happen, of course. She pegged WrestleMania 33 or 34 back then at that time, and wouldn't you know it, 4 years later, Becky versus Charlotte versus Ronda was the first women's main event of WrestleMania 35. Which is when she became Becky 2 Belts. So, like, she told...
Such a great lead up to that.
Oh, it was so good. But just thinking about her in 2015, sitting in that interview, like, oh, one day I'm going to main event WrestleMania, and it's going to be so cool. And, like, not knowing exactly what was in store for her later down, 4 years down the line. Like, crazy.
No way of knowing.
So... at this Takeover at Unstoppable, this is where Becky Lynch debuted the bright, fiery red hair and the steampunk gear. Like, the headbanger was gone, the rock and roll, the river dancer was long gone.
Thank God.
This was the Becky Lynch.
Steampunk Becky was the best.
Oh, the Becky Lynch everyone just fell head over heels for, with the goggles and everything.
Absolutely.
So this match kind of, even though Becky didn't win, it was instrumental in showing Becky as a sympathetic babyface under Sasha's, like, thumb, you know? Because she had been a heel for so long. But the crowd got behind her so effectively, and even in losing, she came out, like, so strong, and as a character that people could get behind and love, and I know that hasn't stopped. That momentum has not stopped from that day.
No, they've even done their best to ruin it. And it still hasn't stopped.
And it's crazy to think at this point in May 2015, we're mere months away from the end of all this.
I know.
This magic. It just, how quickly it happened is insane. So during this time when Becky...
You know, though, not to interrupt, it reminds me of the actual 4 Horsemen.
Oh, yeah?
Because people look back with such reverence. And when you would think back, if you didn't live at that time, and you didn't really know it, you would think, my God, they must have ruled wrestling for years. And
that's how it feels.
And all this. Well, the actual 4 Horsemen was very short-lived.
It was just a blip in time.
And they barely had, with the exception of, like, the War Games matches and stuff, they were together. But even when they first started, it was not like the 4 Horsemen. They were, you know, it was... happenstance interview, something Arn Anderson said, and they were still like, Tully was just an associate with Flair and Flair's cousins, the Andersons, and somewhere along the line they become the 4 Horsemen. But that run with that original 4 Horsemen was like a year. And you know, every other incarnation, arguably the Barry Windham one's the best, but still, you had like year spurts. But it was nothing. It was just a flash. But it's remembered so lovingly because it was so great. And that's like this. I don't think it's the quantity sometimes as much as the quality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You don't need a years-long story to make an impact so big that people remember it for 10 years later.
It becomes just especially when you change the game.
Yes, absolutely. So during this time when Becky is feuding with Sasha, Bayley found herself in a feud with Emma, who is yet another pioneer of this women's revolution, doing big things, especially with Paige earlier in her career. And Emma was trying to convince Bayley to change herself in order to become the champion, because you know how it goes. Like, you're too nice. You're letting people walk all over you.
Emma should know.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, if anybody was too nice at one point, it was Emma.
Yes, but Bayley, being Bayley, stayed true to herself and eventually overcame Emma to like show that I don't need to change to be on top. And then we have the call-up. What this chapter is called the call-up. On July 13th, 2015, just 2 months after Sasha and Becky fought at NXT Takeover Unstoppable, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch were called up to the main roster, appearing on Raw to spearhead Stephanie McMahon's women's revolution.
Right.
This was when the divas were on the way out. You had the Bellas.
Give divas a chance.
Yes. You had the Bellas up there. You had Tamina and Naomi and all them. But they brought in these 3 girls specifically because they had seen what they were doing and they were different to what they had currently on the main roster.
Right, absolutely.
So despite having been called up in July of 2015, Sasha Banks was still the NXT Women's Champion. And it kind of breaks my heart to think about the fact that Bayley is still living down here on the NXT roster, watching her 3 best friends get called up without her, and how those 3 must have felt like knowing that they weren't going to be bringing Bayley with them at that time. But in August of 2015, Bayley actually beat both Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch in separate singles matches, having specifically called them to matches because she wanted to beat the people she considered the best in order to climb her way up to being in contention for the NXT Women's title. So on August 22nd, 2015, at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, their biggest stage yet, the first takeover outside of Full Sail, in a double main event where the women were the first of the 2 main events, Stephanie McMahon came out and talked about what a big deal this was and how amazing the women were and why they deserved this spot on the card to be even a part of the main event, if not the complete main event. So we have Bayley versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's title. And this match is heralded as perhaps one of the greatest matches in NXT, period. Ever. Because it was just these 2 women laying everything they had learned up to this point on the line and showing why they are the pinnacle of not just women's wrestling, but wrestling.
Yes.
All of wrestling, professional wrestling as a sport.
It's an amazing match, man.
And people still talk about it today. Of course, Bayley won this match, ending Sasha's title reign at 192 days, finally capturing the NXT Women's Championship. The crowd was on fire.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. The heralding of Bayley after this match was so beautiful. And of course, following this match, there was a very emotional moment. Bayley was crying. She could see her parents crying in the crowd. Sasha was crying on the ground. And then Charlotte and Becky come running out to the ring, and they have this sort of curtain call moment where they're all hugging. And it was just so beautiful because at one point Sasha had rolled out of the ring, but after Charlotte and Becky stopped hugging Bayley, they all looked at her like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
So Sasha got back in there and gave Bayley a very heartfelt hug that was very reminiscent of their entire journey to this point, their entire friendship. Just Sasha showing Bayley how much she cared about her, how much Bayley cared about Sasha, and congratulating her on finally getting to this point. And then they all raised each other's hands. They did the 4. Corey Graves on commentary said that right there is the women's revolution.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that match itself stands the test of time. I mean, that match is so amazing. That Poison Rana.
Oh gosh.
The Poison Rana off the top is it's like that moment.
Yeah.
It's that moment. It's just so crazy. I mean, and because it shows you like some of the moves in that match that people can recall. And
the
remember.
diving over the ref to the outside, like just the things that they came up with, and like the veracity they put into everything with the kicks and the headbangs into the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
It was so passionate.
It was perfection.
And to have Bayley win at this point was mind blowing. Yeah. This was just everything that they had hoped it would be.
NXT was the epitome of everything WWE was not.
Yes. And watching behind the scenes stuff on this match in particular, watching them go backstage afterwards and Triple H just like
couldn't stop hugging them.
Can't stop hugging them because he's so proud.
I love that.
So cute.
I love that.
It's so amazing. And just the camaraderie they had, the family that this was.
And you could see that was real, man. That the him hugging him so much and he just couldn't stop. He's just like, oh, I love you so much. That was so amazing. Because he knew what that meant for them and what that meant for women's wrestling and what that meant for the brand.
Yeah, because how do you even top that? Honestly, even the men that had to follow, it's like, how do we follow that moment?
That emotion.
Like you don't. There's nobody talks about the main event after that.
No.
They talk about this match at Takeover Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And even there is not the end of the 4 Horsewomen story in NXT, because Bayley remained in NXT for like a full year after the others got called up. On October 7th, 2015, at NXT Takeover Respect, Sasha Banks actually came back down to NXT to have a rematch with Bayley in the first ever Iron Man match in WWE for women, Iron Woman match, and the first women's main event at a WWE promoted pay-per-view. Actual main event this time.
It's insane.
The fact it took them this long, right? Yeah. So Bayley actually beat Sasha in this match at the very last second with the Banks statement with 3 seconds left, 3 falls to 2.
Amazing.
And you get a shot of Izzy Moreno crying in the front row. The NXT rosters all standing on stage, like clapping. Triple H gives Bayley a bouquet of flowers. The crowd's chanting, "You deserve it." It's just a beautiful...
they were on it with her.
It's a beautiful moment. And the fact that this was like Bayley standing in the ring at the end of an NXT takeover.
Yeah.
Like the main event attraction. And like everyone felt that. Yeah. It was a moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same kind of moment as the curtain call where it was very emotional.
But Bayley had been through such a journey being left behind. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So as in her remaining time in NXT, she was the champion. On April 1st, 2016, at NXT TakeOver Dallas, she lost the championship to Asuka.
Yes.
Who, of course, went completely undefeated in NXT during her time. She's just another figure.
Right.
Completely. But she lingered around for the next couple of months until she even had a rematch with Asuka on August 20th, 2016 at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. And then 2 days later, she made her official debut on Raw as part of the main roster to join her friends.
Yeah.
A year later. And I guess she had that beautiful run with the championship. Even if she didn't have Charlotte and Becky and Sasha there to contend with, she was still able to lead the way.
Oh, yeah.
For the younger girls coming in and be that figure for them during that time. And I just want to read this last quote from Charlotte from that interview, because I think it just wraps all of this up beautifully.
Right.
If there hadn't been the 4 Horsewomen, I wouldn't have been in that spot. It took the 4 of us together, working together all the way up from NXT to the main roster to get us to that point. There wouldn't have been a queen without a boss. There wouldn't have been a boss without the hugger. There wouldn't have been the man without the queen. All 4 of us needed each other to get where we are today. So
it's amazing. And especially, we didn't touch on the Charlotte stuff as much, but Charlotte, her whole career, you talked about how she didn't really want to be a wrestler, fueled by the death of Reed.
Yeah.
And, again, it's perspective. I remember when David Flair debuted, all the Ric Flair fans, we were all so excited for the next Flair. And because David looked like Rick.
Yeah.
And he was not he wasn't such a great wrestler.
Right.
And but Reed had lived in the house. Reed was from the family that Flair had.
Right.
He was, in the house with his sister Charlotte.
Yeah.
And, so all those old things with Reed taking down Eric Bischoff on Nitro, and when they go to Ric Flair's house on Nitro, Charlotte answers the door.
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff that you see, she always had her little brother Reed. Mm-hmm. And he was the champ, man. He was one of the best amateur wrestling guys there was.
Right.
And so he was going to be the guy. And unfortunately, this business sometimes can chew you up and spit you out.
Yes,
and,
of course.
The demons, sometimes take us. And
yes.
No one would have imagined that Charlotte, that Ashley, that Ashley would have been the one.
Yes.
And now she's to a point where she has rivaled her father. Mm-hmm. And on this generation, she is the epitome of women's wrestling.
She is, yeah.
She is fantastic. She is an incredible worker.
Yeah, the things she's done since leaving NXT, which we didn't even begin to touch on.
I know, and we will touch on them sometime, and we'll talk about all this, I'm sure. But it kills me because on their own, individually, people think about Becky and her bloody face.
Yes.
And the going into the Survivor Series deal. People, the memories that the man, and just against all odds.
Yeah.
I think that it hurt Bayley being there for a year without them, because when she got called up, it just wasn't the same. If you remember,
she was still kind of behind the curve.
Yeah. And when she got called up, no one really gave two shits about the hugger stuff.
She struggled.
It was hard.
Yeah.
And that made us angry. I remember that was you getting it, but it was amazing what they've overcome, and they continue to overcome.
Oh yeah.
To this day,
like thinking about who they are individually and realizing how much influence they all four had on each other, like to the point that they probably wouldn't be as big as they are right now without having been together.
Even when we saw Mercedes, do what no one thought she could, mm-hmm. But she goes to Japan and man, she puts on clinics.
Yeah.
And just amazing matches, but who's in the crowd but Bayley?
Yes, Pam is there for her.
Yeah,
every time.
Pam's in the crowd and leaving the road and so busy and getting the permission.
Yeah.
And being there for her best friend. And,
it's so beautiful.
It's an awesome, wonderful, incredible story.
It is.
So I thank you for doing the research.
I still got goosebumps.
Giving us the story, but the four horsewomen, are legendary.
They are. And I don't think people ever stop talking about these four women in the history of women's wrestling.
It'll just become more mythical and as it goes.
It will.
But I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
Oh, yes. And we have something super exciting coming for you next time. We are going to be talking about the one, the only, Athena.
Oh, yeah. Can I tell them?
Yes, you can tell them.
To the moon and back, the fall and rise of Athena.
Oh, we love Athena so much. We can't wait to talk about her. And especially with this match coming up and all the stuff she's been doing in Ring of Honor. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too, pal. I'm excited too.
But we are so grateful for all of you for listening. And we hope you enjoyed it and that you come back and see us next time, because we got more exciting stuff coming up for you. And we're always pumped to talk about women's wrestling.
Always.
And we hope you're just as pumped to listen to it. Follow us on all our socials at Wrestling Is Her on Facebook, X, Instagram. We're just out there wilding all the time.
and we'll be live tweeting as much as possible. So find us and holler at us and tell us what you want to hear us talk about, what you want to hear a deep dive on, and we will try to get to it. So.
Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for suggestions, but until next time, thank you so much for listening. I'm Raja. He's John. Bye.
Bye.